to the Tess Thomas Show. I'm Tess Thomas. On April 23rd, 2024, a bill known as the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act was voted into place that set a date for the banning of the internet service called TikTok. The date is approaching. On January 20th, 2025, this bill is officially supposed to go into action, but there's so much to understand about this bill. Before we get into the story, make sure you follow this page and give this episode a big thumbs up. So when we're understanding this issue behind this banning of TikTok, there's a lot of history that has to be understood, especially the first time it was suggested that TikTok even get banned. And that was during Donald Trump's first administration in 2016. Since 2016 and Trump's first administration, there's always been talk about banning TikTok, and through Biden's administrations, the bill actually was talked about, voted upon, and came into effect. In March of 2024, it was passed on the floor, and then the House of Representatives and Congress voted it into place in April 2024. The bill itself reads, under the bill, a foreign adversary-controlled application is directly or indirectly operated by one, ByteDance Ltd. Or TikTok, including subsidiaries or successors that are controlled by the foreign adversaries, or a social media company that is controlled by a foreign adversary has been determined by the president to present a significant threat to national security. The prohibition does not apply to the application that is primarily used to post product reviews, business reviews, or travel information and reviews. What's really important about this bill is that they say if the corporation, the online presence itself, poses a national security issue, then the government can take away that platform because it's not a violation of anyone's rights. But the interesting thing is that I completely agree that if this is posing a legitimate national security threat, then yeah, go ahead and ban TikTok. It's more important that the people of America are safe and their information is secure rather than having another online presence, because there are plenty of those out there and it doesn't take TikTok to create a safe space. But as I'll get into later, we're not 100% sure if TikTok actually presents a national security threat. But actually what I want to talk about first is right after this bill was passed, the CEO of TikTok, and please forgive me if I pronounce his name wrong, is Shuzi Chu, had something to say. So we're gonna watch the TikTok he made right after this bill was passed. So we're going to listen to this.
Congress passed a bill that the president signed into law that is designed to ban TikTok in the United States. That will take TikTok away from you and 170 million Americans who find community and connection on our platform. Make no mistake, this is a ban on TikTok and a ban on you and your voice. Politicians may say otherwise, but don't get confused. Many who sponsored the bill admit a TikTok ban is the ultimate goal. It's obviously a disappointing moment, but it does not need to be a defining one. It's actually ironic because the freedom of expression on TikTok reflects the same American values that make the United States a beacon of freedom. TikTok gives everyday Americans a powerful way to be seen and heard, and that's why so many people have made TikTok part of their daily lives. Rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. We are confident and we will keep fighting for your rights in the courts. The facts and the Constitution are on our side, and we expect to prevail again. Our community is filled with people who have found acceptance and compassion, offered inspiration and encouragement, increased their awareness, and brought into perspectives, ultimately adding more delight and joy to their lives. Our community is also filled with 7 million business owners who have built their livelihoods on TikTok. While we make our case in court, you'll still be able to enjoy TikTok like you always have. In fact, if you have a story about how TikTok impacts your life, we'll love for you to share it to showcase exactly what we're fighting for. Meanwhile, we will continue to invest and innovate to keep our community vibrant, exciting, and safe. Through our US data security efforts, we have built safeguards that no other peer company has made. We have invested billions of dollars to secure your data and keep our platform free from outside manipulation. I can't say this enough. This extraordinary diverse community is what makes TikTok so special, what makes it matter, and what makes it meaningful. And we'll keep working to ensure you will always have the opportunity, the safety, and the freedom to enjoy all.
That video is so interesting because he sued the government right after that. TikTok started suing the American government, saying that banning TikTok was a violation of Americans' freedom of speech, just like he said in that video, that America was built upon the freedom of expression and the freedom of speech, which I completely agree. And I believe social media presence is really important, and social media platforms are really important for the freedom of speech, and banning them outright is completely outrageous. Again, if they can present a legitimate national security threat that TikTok has proved and provoked, then let's talk about banning TikTok. But thus far, nothing's been proven. It's all conjecture at this point. So I'm on TikTok's side in this. I don't know if we should ban it just yet. I think there ought to be more of an investigation into this. This is exactly what President-elect Donald Trump is trying to ask the Supreme Courts to do, because not all hope is lost for TikTok. Donald Trump is asking the Supreme Court to postpone the ban on TikTok, in his words, for a political resolution. He's been meeting with business officials through his place in Mar-a-Lago, and actually met with the CEO of TikTok. I'm not sure how I feel about this dramatic shift in policy since 2016, when he ultimately was the first person who wanted to ban TikTok. But I understand opinions change, and maybe the underlying facts change, that perhaps TikTok's policies change, so therefore what Donald Trump disagreed with no longer exists. An article from Time had some thoughts on this idea of President Trump's feelings changing, when it said, President Trump takes no position on the underlying merits of this dispute. Instead, he respectfully requests that the courts consider staying the act's official deadline for the divestment on January 19th, 2025. While it considers the merits of this case, said Trump's amicus brief, which supported neither party in case and was written by D. John Saucer, Trump's choice Solicitor General. So it's clear, Trump isn't saying that he doesn't want an outright ban on TikTok, so my initial thoughts of him being flip-floppy on this position actually changed, because perhaps he actually does want a ban on TikTok, and I read some article where perhaps he still wants a ban, but he just wants more investigation to prove that there's actually a national security threat, which I completely agree with. So has TikTok actually proved itself as a national security threat? Well, nothing is for sure, so I did a little digging. U.S. officials sure believe that TikTok is a national security threat, so I pulled a few quotes from some of the senators from our U.S. Congress. Senator Josh Hawley is a Republican, and he said, your company has a lot to hide, talking about TikTok. You're a walking security nightmare, and for every American who uses this app, I'm concerned. Then Senator Richard, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Blumenthal, a Democrat, said, I'm demanding declassification of TikTok facts because the American people deserve and need to know the chilling truth about TikTok. It's a clear and present threat to national security and privacy. It's out there. The senators believe that it's actually a national security threat, and they proved that with their vote in March and April of last year. But I did some more digging, and I actually read the terms and conditions and the privacy policy from TikTok, and while TikTok may be lying about what they're actually doing with our information, if they're doing exactly what they say they're doing on their terms and conditions, then I don't really see a national security threat. Although I do see two major suspicious things that are said in the terms and conditions. A lot of people are saying that TikTok has full access to your phone as soon as you agree to the terms and conditions. I don't think this is true. At least TikTok says it isn't true. And if it is, then I'm for a ban of TikTok. But again, if they're doing what they say they're doing, then I don't see that it poses a national security threat. But I did want to talk about those two things that I found in the terms and conditions that I did think a little concerning about their privacy policy. The first thing is that TikTok's allowed to keep your information as long as they want. Like any other online service, they collect data about you, and they use that data to market different videos and ads to you. But they don't delete this data when your account is deleted. A lot of online presences and platforms will delete it up to 90 days after, just to ensure you're having second thoughts about deleting your account. But TikTok's terms and service says they can just keep the information however long they want. They never set a finite date on it, And that was concerning to me, that they can just keep your data, keep your password, keep your information, keep your location, and then just have it out there. Do whatever they want with it, because you're no longer a TikTok user, so they no longer have a duty to you as a consumer. So I think that's a little disconcerting, but again, not a national security threat because nothing has been proved yet. The other thing that was concerning was that they collect biometric information and identifiers. I'm not even sure I completely understand what's happening here. An article from TechCrunch can explain this way better than I can. And it said, a change to TikTok's US privacy policy on Wednesday introduced a new section that says the social video app may collect biometric identifiers and biometric information from its users' content. This includes things like face prints and voice prints, the policy explained. Reached for comment, TikTok could not confirm what product developments necessitated the addition of biometric data to its list of disclosures about the information it automatically collects from users, but said it would ask for consent in the case such data collection practices began. The specific statement from the terms of policy says, we may collect biometric identifiers and biometric information as defined under US laws, such as face prints and voice prints from your user content. Where required by law, we will seek any required permissions from you prior to such collection. The statement itself is vague, as it doesn't specify whether it's considering federal law, states' laws, or both. It also doesn't explain, as the other part did, why TikTok needs the data. It doesn't define the terms face prints or voice prints, nor does it explain how it will go about seeking the required permission from users, or if it will look to either state or federal laws to guide the process of gaining consent. That's pretty crazy. I don't know about you guys, but when I read that, I was like so concerned. But again, not a national security threat. It may be a privacy threat to a few different people. It may be a little creepy that they're doing this, but I don't see the security of our overall country, of the entire United States of America, it's not being threatened. So I'm not 100% sold on the fact that it should be banned. As well as a lot of people are arguing, especially the CEO of TikTok is arguing, that it's a violation of freedom of speech. The crux of the issue is that whether or not this bill violates freedom of speech, that's exactly why TikTok is suing the United States government. So I looked into past Supreme Court case law about freedom of speech on social media, and I found a case called Moody v. NetChoice and NetChoice v. Paxton. This was actually a case in 2024. The Supreme Court ruled that the social media platforms have First Amendment rights and cannot be dictated by the governments on what content to publish. The court found that social media platforms are private entities, not government actors, and that their editorial decisions are protected speech. So although TikTok is not an American corporation, the people on TikTok do have First Amendment rights. But I also think it's really interesting that the bill that passed to ban TikTok said that it gave TikTok 12 months to be bought by an American company or an American person. So then TikTok would have First Amendment rights. And I wonder if that would resolve all of these issues. It would stop the banning of TikTok if someone else were to buy it, but perhaps it would stop any questions of privacy and terms and condition policies that are being raised right now. But it's clear to me that by banning TikTok right now is a violation of freedom of speech. In America, there are many things that we're allowed to say and do, though they may be immoral, but we have the freedom of speech. We have the freedom to express ourselves. That's the whole point of the United States, is that we are to misbehave. We are to say things that go outside of the general norm. That's why things like the Alien and Sedition Act were so horrible and so unconstitutional, because they took away our fundamental right to express ourselves. Because when we aren't allowed to express ourselves, we aren't allowed to be human. And when we aren't humanized, our lives aren't valued. So if our lives are being undervalued by a national security threat, let's investigate that more, like President-elect Donald Trump is talking about doing. He's talking about investigating it and ensuring that it's actually an actual national security threat. And if it is, then let's talk about that more, and let's get that investigation. Let's get experts on the subject, and let's get the CEO and the people running TikTok and writing these policies in here and telling us what they're doing with our data and telling us why they need these biometric information and why they're keeping our data as long as they are. And then we can come to an informed decision rather than just banning it and saying it's a bad thing, don't talk about it. That's not okay. We need to know what's happening because transparency is incredibly important in government, and transparency is what gains the American people's trust. I think this is why the American people have so much mistrust in the government and in Congress and the Supreme Court, and why they don't like the government anymore is because there's no trust, there's no transparency. And I think that with these next 4 years, Donald Trump has a really big opportunity to allow the government to be transparent. He made a lot of promises about releasing old files from the CIA that have never been released, and I really hope he does, because we need trust again. We need America to be trustful. We need America to trust one another, not just the government, because questioning the government is part of of America's founding. This ban should be delayed until there is more and a thorough, better investigation into the security threats. I'm personally not a TikTok user, but its current users do seem very upset of the idea of being banned. So I pulled up a few of the comments on that video from the CEO, and this is what it said. From Angel Dreamer 11. I've learned from everything about psychology to life hacks, the truth about politics and makeup. I've learned so much here than I ever did on any other platform because it's so easy to understand. Another user said, TikTok is the only platform I found success for my art. I hope it isn't taken away or won't be able to reach anyone anymore. And someone else said, thank you for the message. I'd use TikTok for helping me pass some pretty hard tests, help me sell my home, and learn how to cook multiple meals while enjoying dog video, which lifted me up on rough days. It's clear that the people who use TikTok love TikTok. It's worth that investigation. It's worth the government's time because it might bring that trust back to the American people, back to the government. Needless to say, this will be a very interesting case when on January 10th, the oral arguments began. It's a very complicated case, so let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you guys next time.